today's conversation is all about how do we negotiate our worth? How do we go after what we want, and make sure that we are getting paid what we rightfully deserve. How are you, Tori?
I'm fine. How are you, sis?
I am great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Always fun hanging out with you.
And I'm loving the shoes in the back. Talk to I gotta shout out the Kelseys, right? Those are
Yes,
Kelseys in the back. Talk
yes.
to us about your shoe game that you got going on back there.
Yeah, well, the Kelsey boots are super special to me because they are actually the second boots that I ever designed, the second
Mhm.
style of shoes, period, that I ever designed. And, after I designed them and saw the samples, it really made me feel like I really had a voice creatively. Like, I can do this. So I named them after my sister. They were inspired by the Sydney Opera House. And to this day, they're one of my favorites. I designed them probably about 10 years ago now, almost 10 years ago. And so it's one of those styles that, it stands the test of time in my opinion.
I love it. All right. So today's conversation with Tori, I just had to shout off the shoes because they're looking so fabulous in the background and the bag. Um, Today's conversation is around Black women's equal pay day. And as most of you know, Black women are not paid the equivalent to our white counterparts, especially white males. It would take up until today for us to be paid that equal amount. And so Black women are paid 62 cents to the dollar of their counterparts. And so today's conversation, we're not going to stick to the politics and, all of the corporate conversation, but we're going to talk about what we can do as Black women to do our part to ensure that we know our worth, that we're paid our worth, and that we have the necessary negotiating skills to step in and ask for what we deserve. So, Tori, what has been your experience with negotiating? I mean, because having a luxury shoe collection, and I'm sure, going in and negotiating with factories in Italy, you didn't just accept whatever people just offered to you. So, what has your journey been like?
It was interesting because at first I had to understand how the industry worked, and I didn't really know that there was the room to negotiate. So in the beginning, I have to admit I didn't as much.
Now, why
But
didn't you know? Was it just because it was just something that you think Black women specifically, like we just go after whatever people offer to us at first? And I think it's just, I mean, because I think it is a little bit of that.
Well, I mean, to be fully transparent, the shoe industry in Italy is very insular and it's hard to get into in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So once I just, tried and tried to get in and got into a factory, I was like, oh, I'm in, and I just was kind of trying to be, mindful of having got in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I came to understand that there is room to negotiate when it comes to the prices of your shoes. And that's a normal conversation. It's not that you're being difficult. It's not that it's actually expected. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
expected. And so I do that every time now. But initially, because we weren't in that space before as Black women, we weren't in the luxury shoe market. I didn't have that role model that showed me the ropes. So I just didn't know how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot to learn about the culture of the shoe industry in Italy in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like here where you go to a business and you call them and you say, I want to do business with you. And they're like, sure, come on in. We want your business. It doesn't operate like that. They vet you, they check
Mm-hmm.
you out. They want to know who you know, how long you've been in business, what kind of designs you have, and if they have the potential to be successful. So that was just a lot of pressure just getting in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I do recognize that it is so important to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned that I have a value. I'm an asset to the factory. I have
Absolutely.
I learned that over time because, when the factory sees when Zendaya wore my boots on in style, the factory was celebrating. That's like their products.
Publicity there. Yeah.
Right. They shared that excitement with me, you know, and when I design my boots, when they're produced, they're just as happy as I am to see, you know, a design that, you know, works well come to life. You
And getting
know,
attention, it's being celebrated, it's being recognized, all of that. It's not only just about you, but the visibility that it brings to all of your partners, all of the people who rallied behind you and gathered and said,
exactly.
yeah, we stand behind this product. We
It,
we want to be a part of this.
exactly, exactly. So behind me, there's an army of people who are coming along the way, coming
Mhm.
along the journey with me. And, you know, once I learned my value, then it changed everything. It changed everything. It
Now,
liberated me.
and I think that that's the number one thing that a lot of women, they don't know their value,
Right.
or they haven't identified what their value proposition is. What are some of the things that women can do to figure out like the value add that they bring to, whether it's an employer, whether it's starting their own business, whether it's their clothing line, whether it's getting a sponsorship from a bank or grants? How do you find, your value add?
You know, I think the number one thing for me is owning your perspective, the way you view things. In the creative field, it's owning your voice creatively. You know, I had to learn to say when I design shoes, it comes from within when I design shoes. It's
Mhm.
not copied from someone else. It's my own unique voice. And so I think everyone has to find that in their respective industry, you know, whether it's an idea they have for a marketing campaign, whether or not it's an event for their company or whatever position they're in, they should really draw on their own creative ideas and perspectives because I feel that that is your value. That is something that no one can take away from you. You're building your asset. That's an asset that builds over time. And people will learn to value that. If you value that, people will see it also. And
Mhm.
that is like your entry card into, you know, maneuvering through systems, I believe. Because,
Mhm.
you know, if they want what you have, they have to come to you.
Now, everyone who is tuned in, we are speaking with Tori Soudan, who is a luxury shoe designer. As you can tell, she is a beautiful Black woman.
Thank
And
you.
so she completely broke barriers in going into Italian factories. I believe the factories that her shoes are made out of is the same factories like Ferragamo. Is that correct? Is it
It's
Ferragamo
Chanel,
or?
Dior, and Manolo.
Okay. And so, I mean, these are luxury shoes, luxury productions and bags and all of the different things that she's doing. It's to a new standard, especially for Black women who have not broken into the industry that she's in and doing it very successfully. And so today is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And so we are talking about the different things that we should be doing, the negotiating power that we need to have. As Tori mentioned earlier, a lot of times we don't know to negotiate. A lot of times we're afraid to negotiate. And so we are almost doing ourselves a disservice because we want to accept, we're just happy to be in the room. We're
Right.
happy to have the opportunity to be offered something. And so knowing that it's not just, hey, you're being offered this and you take that first opportunity, but knowing that, hey, you want me, let's see how bad you want me. But you personally have to know that value that you are coming to the table with. Um, and
And
so, Tori,
can I add something really quick? I think it's
absolutely.
really, really important that we have to stop trying to be the first and celebrating that and stopping and really trying to be the best. And
Mm,
so, you know, a lot of us think that if we get in, oh, the first Black fill in the blank, let's celebrate. But that's only the beginning. I mean,
mm-hmm,
that's not even the time to celebrate yet. That's just when the door opens. We have to catch up. You know, we have to advance
mm-hmm,
and, you know, really, you know, break through in each industry. So while, you know, when I started, there were very few Black women that designed shoes. You know, I think it's important to see, you know, to make opportunities for others
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because that's when we make an impact.
Absolutely. Now, Tori, so being that that stat that I gave earlier, it's that Black women make 62 cents to the dollar of their white male counterparts. How does that affect your industry? Like, does that affect the business owner, or is it something that we just have to wrap our minds around? And I think the reason why I wanted to have these conversations with business owners is that I personally don't think we have that same fight where my white counterpart gets paid this and I'm getting paid that, because I feel like that's a choice. If I set my bar lower than the people around me who are doing the exact same thing, I think that's a personal choice. But like, what are your thoughts?
That's interesting because it is a personal choice, but we're
Mm-hmm.
also, to a certain extent, conditioned to automatically just accept less, to not
Mm-hmm.
negotiate that lower rate to produce your goods. It's just kind of like something we're used to. So
Mm-hmm.
even though we're entrepreneurs, we still have to find that courage and, to make that change to ask for what we want on a daily basis. But what I found in the shoe industry is really male dominated, even women's shoes. So all of the factory owners that I've ever dealt with have been male.
Mm-hmm.
All of their top execs were male. When I go to industry events, there's a sea of men.
Mm-hmm.
See a sea of, actually I'm like one of few black people there, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk about being a minority. When I first started, one of the ways that I made strides is because I went to industry events every year. And this is in Italy. I went to industry events every year. And so people I would, meet people, keep in touch with them and come back and they would remember me because I was the black woman. So that kind of
You
helped.
stood out.
They're like, "Oh, there she is."
No, I
So
love it. But I mean, but I think it also works to your benefit, and knowing how to, but you have to, it can work to your benefit, but it can also be a bad rep, like depending on how you show up
that's right.
and how you engage.
Right.
Um, and so and you guys, if you have questions and you're tuned in, please type them in the chat box. So I want to make this as specific to what your industry is as possible. We have different people who are going to be joining us throughout the day, people in the entertainment industry, women who do empowerment. We spoke with the amazing publicist who works with all of our celebrities in the across the country, really, and puts on events for politicians and celebrities and all that. But we want to know what your questions are. Like, where do you find like you kind of lack confidence? Because I think a lot of it also has to do with the confidence to go into a room and say, okay, this is cute. Thank you for this offer, but this is what I know I deserve. And so if you have those issues, like, let's talk about it. Let's get us past that barrier, because we deserve to be paid what we're worth. But you have to know what your worth is. You can't just
True.
walk into a room and say, oh, I know I want more. Well, what is more? Why do you deserve more? And so, Tori, what was that breaking point for you? Like, what made you decide, you know what? I don't necessarily want to design shoes for some other company. I don't want to do this for someone else. What was that thing that happened to you that made you say, you know what? I'm going to try this out on my own. Like, I want this for me.
You know, first, gaining the confidence for me, that came through designing and putting my designs out there. I can relate to your last guest. I forget her name. Where
Mocha.
she's Mocha. She said that she had a book or something that she was hesitant to put out because it's like bearing your soul. Once you become okay with doing that, it's like, look, this is who I am. And so you start showing up differently because you've already bared your soul. So
Mm-hmm.
that process gave me the confidence to be more assertive and, know my worth and to ask for what I wanted. But I would say the thing that made me say I'm going to start my own shoe line is back in the day when I first tried to break into the fashion industry, I realized how hard it was. So I interned with Tommy Hilfiger when I was in college in their Atlanta showroom, and I was supposed to go to the New York office and start working there after I graduated. And I interviewed, didn't get the job. And I just realized the barriers to entry that were in place in the fashion industry, especially at that time. You know, you were supposed to work for another company, work your way up, build your reputation, and then, you know, break into the industry. That was like the path.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the internet was invented, and I'm telling my age, yes. So when the internet was invented, it really opened things up
Mm-hmm.
for designers like me who just wanted to go out there solo because we could reach our customers.
Right.
So I'm always like, I don't like for anybody to be able to tell me no. I don't like rules and, you know, obstacles where people say I can't do something, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I have to go through someone to get somewhere. That frustrates me.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go directly.
I love it. Now, when it comes to knowing your worth, what was the moment for you that you realized that as a luxury shoe, I can charge $900 for a pair of shoes and not feel bad about it? Like, what was that moment for you?
For me, I'm on a video call. Sorry.
You're good.
I'm a mom too. um, so when I first started, in researching how shoes are made and, you know, what are the differences in the manufacturing techniques, the materials, the level of materials and everything, that showed me that there's a difference between products and different price points.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that someone randomly says, I want to charge $800 because I just want to charge $800. It's really, you know, the craftsmanship that goes into it and the materials involved. And one of the biggest things that I learned is that there's so many different grades of leather. A lot of people think, oh, I have a leather pair of shoes and that's all I need. But there's different grades. There's different sources of leather. Some sources are produce a weaker hide than others.
Mm-hmm.
And also the way that it's processed, it creates a different product.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the tanning process. So there's just a lot that goes into the level of the quality of the materials that goes into the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when I started, I said I want to make sure that I do quality. And
Mm-hmm.
so in making that decision, everything just flowed with it. I mean, you start with your cost basis and then you build your markup accordingly, according
Right.
to how much the shoes actually cost.
But with that, I feel like, and people join in, don't judge me by what I'm about to say, but I feel like Black people like discounts and a lot of times don't always want to pay for the value of what's required, you know, whether it's in making it, whether it's in services. And so I often find that mentality that a lot of Black people have, it stems from, you know, well, I don't want to pay that for that, or, you know, but I think it also goes into their ability to negotiate, their ability in understanding what their value is. And
Right.
because they don't necessarily understand what their value is, they don't see the value in other people to go to a luxury Black owned business, a luxury shoe designer, and pay $900 for a boot. They see a Gucci boot that costs the same amount, and they're willing to go to Gucci and say, well, I'm going to pay $900 for Gucci because I know other people recognize this label. But does Gucci recognize, and are they going to pay you what you potentially deserve if you were working for them? So, like, how do you combat and battle that? Because that's a real issue in the Black community.
That's a real question. And you went there. I have to say you went there. So one thing is that a lot of people don't know what they're buying when they buy
Mm-hmm.
shoes. They don't realize that number one, a lot of times the shoes they're buying aren't leather at all. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of plastic that looks like leather. And so while, you can play it off by the way it looks, the way that it feels is not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
leather is what molds to your feet, allows your feet to breathe and, moves with the shape of your feet.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of shoes they don't have leather uppers. A lot of them don't have leather linings. So when you're paying 50, $80 for a pair of shoes, just know that you're getting a plastic pair of shoes. So the challenge is that in the US, as designers, we're not required to disclose the contents of the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So people just go by visuals. They see it and they say, "Oh, this is a leather pair of shoes," and it costs $80.
Mm-hmm.
But and so they just go by what they think it is by looking at it. So that's a real challenge. But designers that want you to know what their shoes are made of, they will disclose that, and I disclose that on my shoes. On the bottom, you see a grid that tells you the content of the upper, the soles, and the lining of
Mm-hmm.
each pair of shoes. And so, I mean, you get what you pay for. So if you're okay with buying a pair of shoes that are going to last a season, I just think that people should be informed. Either
Yeah.
way, they should be informed. And to your point about designer brands,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that um, really affects me, not because I have a shoe brand, but because I see a lot of our people sort of um, associating themselves with certain brands in order to feel like they have a certain worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that just bothers me. If you're buying it because you love it, great. But
Mm-hmm.
if your focus is to be a billboard so that you can show people your worth, that 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 I'm really I struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
I really struggle with that. I think that is one thing in our community that there needs to be more conversations about,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just one of those effects of years of suppression where we are trying to show our worth, we are trying to feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is false. It's a false sense of worth that
Mm-hmm.
at some point it won't be there. What
Right.
happens when you lose your job and you can't afford this any longer? We
Right.
have to stop looking outside of ourselves.
And I'm drinking out of my Tori Soudan cup.
Oh, how nice. I should have brought mine.
I was like, oh yes, and it was just the cup that I ended up having, and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna be on today.
Perfect. Perfect.
um, and so with that though, Tori, because we are way over time, we were supposed to be on for 15 minutes.
Well, we had to catch up anyway. It's been a while.
I know. Um, I just think that it's just in like this time, this season, right? You think about the power of the black dollar and how quickly the black dollar is spent. Most people don't know. In other cultures, it's days, hours, before their money is depleted. And I mean, days, weeks. The black culture, I think it's like 6 hours.
Right.
It's something absolutely like just ridiculous. And most of that money we don't even spend within our community, right? And so I know that this conversation is supposed to be on the negotiating, it's supposed to be on, the importance of um black women being paid what they're worth, but there's something to be said around us supporting each other, us knowing our worth. And when I say our, not us as a person, but our worth as a culture. And to go in and trust that if it's a black owned business, that I can support it and I know what the value add that I am getting from that business. I
Right.
think oftentimes people nickel and dime black owned businesses because unfortunately a lot of things have happened in the past where the value may not have been there, the quality may not have been there. And so people get this idea of, or, oh, well, what makes them think I'm going to pay this amount of money for this, where I can go with this brand, that talks to that stigma of these organizations and these companies that, like, you're just stuck to because you feel like it makes you feel good. And brands should make you feel good, right? I'm not saying that, when I put on a pair of Tori Soudan shoes, I feel amazing, especially, what's the boots that I love? What are they called?
The Adia boots or the
Yeah,
Kelsey?
the Adidas are my absolutely favorite, y'all. If you have not seen them, definitely go to her page and check them out. She just came out with a whole new array of colors that speaks to the person that you are. They are absolutely phenomenal. Now, you're going to pay for them, but this is what we're talking about. You get what you pay for, and quality is important. And you want to make sure that my grandmother always told us, like, you can put on, you don't wear cheap shoes. This
Right,
my grandma. She's like, we don't wear cheap shoes. Now you can put on whatever you want to accessorize it with, but dress from the bottom up,
right.
and figure it out that way.
Hmm.
So when it comes to negotiating, some of the takeaways that we got from Tori is, know that that's what you're supposed to do. Starting there, like, people want you to negotiate with them. What's another takeaway that we can let people know as they are maneuvering and negotiating and walking in their power?
I think to just have a vision for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and to stay with that vision. Because once you get into any negotiation or any, business environment, you can let yourself waver very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to know where you want to be. Like, for instance, for me, I knew I wanted to have quality shoes, high quality shoes.
And your shoes are made in the same factory as Chanel. Who else?
Manolo Blahnik, Christian Dior, and also Louboutin they make some of those also.
See, so this is quality. And I feel like that's the other part. Most people don't know where their shoes are even being manufactured,
Right.
or the other companies that are manufacturing in the facility. I think
Hmm.
that even speaks volumes. Like, yo, I'm not just out here manufacturing my shoes with, like, Kmart. Like,
Right.
my
Right.
shoes is a high quality luxury experience that begins with the factory
Right.
all the way until they go on your foot. This is an experience that a Black woman created and has built up, and is not only, and I think the thing that I love most about you, Tori, is that you share. You're willing to share information. You're not just hoarding it and being like, oh, I put in the work, I've been through the process, but you're open. You're like, hey, if this is something that you're interested in, let's talk.
Yeah, I'm a teacher to my core. I used to teach in the business school at Morgan State University. And I just enjoy that. I enjoy exposing people to different experiences and helping them navigate the business world.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of the things that I just do naturally, and I just enjoy, because it is an education.
Mm-hmm.
Owning a business, starting a brand is an education. So I've actually, I feel like I've never left that. I've never left that space.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now, my PhD is
You're
in
learning on the job too.
shoe design, manufacturing, sourcing, importing, all that stuff. That's just a whole new world, a whole new space that I really embrace. I
Right.
really do.
And so, any last minute thoughts, any words of encouragement for those people who are watching, especially if they have a desire to enter the fashion industry? I feel like the fashion industry is one of those spaces that there are a lot of aspiring creatives but they get deterred very easily.
Yes.
What are some things that they should keep top of mind to keep them propelling forward?
Number one is to really understand your true core value and what your voice is, so
Mm-hmm.
that when you go out there, you know what you have. You
Mm-hmm.
know what you have. You know, what your value is and what your worth is. Because what can happen is in any creative space, you get out there and you say, oh, I want to start making boots, dress boots. And then you get out there and you get overwhelmed because there's so many options and there's so many different ways that you can go. One of the
And
things
so
that
many people telling you, like, why do you think you could do that? What are
exact
you thinking?
and then you're getting feedback on your designs. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like this. And you have to be okay with that. You have
Hmm.
to really just stay with your own path and your own creative vision, and your customer will find you.
Hmm.
Your customer will find you, and you can't just keep shifting. You have to stand for something.
So I am on this whole Evan Carmichael like kick right now. And if nobody's familiar with him, he has a book out called, I think it's called Your One Word.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, it's all about knowing what that one word is about who you are, what you represent at the core of who you are. What is it that you're supposed to be doing? And so I'm going to ask you if you know what your one word is, Tori.
Wow. Uh, what
Well,
I'm
I'm gonna let you think. I'm gonna let you think because I know I'm putting you all the way on the spot. I'll tell you what I believe my one word is, and it took me a minute to figure it out. And I've had several. My first one was to inspire. Another
Mhm.
one was visionary. But I think I'm settled on my one word being alive because
Alive.
I feel like what I do is that I help people reach a point where they feel alive. I
Mhm.
feel like whether it's helping them tap into what their passion is, whether it's helping them to share their story and relinquish like whatever they may have been feeling over the years or this fear of being seen. Because a
Mhm.
lot of people fear being seen, which is kind of like what Mocha talked about, and even you
Right.
talked about with your shoes.
Mhm.
And so being able to have that aha moment manifest in somebody, like I feel like that's my superpower, is
Mhm.
helping people reach that and feel alive.
I think for me it might be something like uh reshape
Mm,
perceptions
mm,
or to reshape spaces. So for instance, when you think about a designer, people don't, a shoe designer, you don't think of a Black woman that can
mhm,
do this. And I mean, I love that, when I teach children and I interact with different people, how it's creating a new idea for them on what they could be and what they could be doing and
mhm,
what the possibilities are. And
mhm,
so I just want to be that example to show people, to make people think a little bit differently
mhm,
about what is possible, because I think that that's my story. I went to Italy not knowing Italian, not knowing a person in
mhm.
the industry, and I gotten all the way to having my shoes made in Chanel's factory. And there's a long story in there,
Oh, I
but
know.
but that's an example of, when people say, oh, I don't have the connections, or I don't have any, family members that have ever done this. I'm the first to go to college, I'm the first to this, I don't know anyone. Like, throw all of that out and
Hmm.
just go for it.
Shoot. It's so funny. So from what you said, I feel like your one word is disruptor.
Okay, I'll take that.
That is what I'm gonna go with. That you are a disruptor. You are disrupting the norms of how things are and what you should be doing and how you do it.
Right.
So anyone who is listening, if you have any quick questions, because this was supposed to have been 15 minutes, y'all, we just and me and Mocha we went long too. So but it's all good. Like at the end of the day, if it's helpful, if it's providing you with some information, please give us some hearts, write us some comments. We definitely want to make sure that you are walking away from this conversation feeling compelled to do more, to own your worth, to walk in your purpose, and to not settle for anything less than what you deserve.
Right.
So thank you so much, Tori, for joining me. This was so much fun. I feel like I need to have you back on the show
Oh, I
on
would love to.
WBB.
I
So
would
we
love
have
to. And I love
full
and I
conversation.
love what you're doing, by the way.
Um,
You are a disruptor.
Thank you, Tori. You know I love you.
Love you
And
too.
oh, so people are saying this was expiring. Thank you, ladies. I needed this today. Oh, that's a blessing. We're so glad that you found the information helpful. And if you guys want to know more, you can follow Tori. Tori, you have two pages. Let them know what your pages are.
Well, my business IG is Tori Soudan, and my mine is torisudan.designer.
Yay. And check out her new boots. She has that special collection going on right now that if you pre-order, you can get what is it? The limited edition of my favorite boots.
Well, actually, they're available for pre-order only. So
Okay.
it's a special limited edition of the Adia boots that I'm doing, and there is a promotion that I'm having if you order before
Can you tell
August
me what it is?
31st.
Because I know it said go into the cart, and I had to get on here. So can you tell me how much are they, Tori?
Well, they're it's supposed to be a surprise. They're 738 full price, and in the cart they come to like 595,
What?
and then you can pay in 4 installments.
Ooh, so you got a COVID payment plan for us.
Yes, I know how to work it out. See, I'll help you out.
I love it. All right. Well, if you guys aren't following Tori, please go follow her page. Check out the website. She has some beautiful and phenomenal designs. We want to support our Black-owned businesses. And you can be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm at Angel and Livis. And we have some amazing programming coming up as well. So definitely check out what we have going on, as well as a special called I Am Black that is going to be airing on September 15th, which is the anniversary of the 16th Street church bombing that took place in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama. You can learn about all that and more on my Instagram page, as well as on any of my websites. Tori, you want to give them your website? Because I definitely want them to go check out these shoes.
ToriSudan.com.
And that's Tori, Tori, and then Sudan, SOUDAN.com.
Yes.
And you can check out some of our platforms at let's see, iamblack.org. You can learn about all of those initiatives that we have going on. And then you can also learn more about me at angelandlivis.com. All right, that is our interview with Tori. We have another one coming up at 2 o'clock with Miss Karen Marie Austin, which is one of my mentors. I absolutely love her. She is a marketing specialist, amazing woman, and the founder of the Spectrum Circle. So if you enjoyed this, please come back and join us at 2 o'clock. We're doing it all over again. All right. Happy Black Women's Equal Pay Day. It's not really something to be happy about, but we're going to be happy about making changes that we can be responsible for and implementing in our lives by making sure that we know our worth and demanding nothing less. All right. I will see y'all back at 2 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining me, Tori.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.